Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Outside Inside of the day after a prime time win. The Philadelphia Eagles overthrew the Washington Commanders on home soil. Terrific win. It didn't start out the way we wanted. It was a little bit sluggish in the first half, similar to what we saw in the game against Dallas. But boy, oh boy, did the Eagles come through in a fourth quarter romp. There was a little bit of Saquon Barkley genius in there in what was almost another career total yardage day for him. You had Jalen Hurts dealing it out. The receivers played well. And then, of course, Reed Blankenship's interception at the end sealed the game. And just a non-stop back and forth. The Eagles scoring 16 points within about 10 seconds, it felt like. Just a sensational way to get the job done. We spoke earlier in the week on Monday's stream about the difficulty this team would face. Like, that this is the toughest challenge they would have all year. Like, it's the Commanders who have got off to a terrific start. They were top of the NFC East, coming off a bit of a wobble against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Eagles were, coming into this with 5 wins on the trot. They had to capitalize. They had to come away with a win. And they did exactly that. And to do that under the pressures of primetime football on a short week against a team as talented as Washington, as much as we may not want to admit it, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. So, fantastic win. Birds top of the NFC East. We've got a lot to talk about today, including Quinyon Mitchell, who bottled up Terry McLaurin. Didn't even allow a single reception. We're going to get into his stats, his game, and obviously his campaign for, I believe now, we spoke about it a few times now in the last few weeks, could be a defensive rookie of the year. And we mentioned the edge rushes and how guys like Jared Verse are going to have the edge because of the production that they bring. But how many more top wideouts does Quinyon Mitchell need to completely blanket and take out of the game before someone on that panel goes, that guy might be doing more for his team than one of the edge rushers is? So we're going to get into all of that in today's stream. Welcome to everyone that's watching. I know we've got a few comments here already. Excited to talk birds. It's been a very fun 24 hours. Bird brains in. Guantanamo Bay is taking all prisoners, life sentences, and no bail. And I can't agree more. It's just been exhilarating. It's probably the only word for it. To watch Q come into week one, play the way he did, and like, it wasn't meant to be his role. Like, we've said this a few times as well, that if you go back and look at how the depth chart formed at the end of training camp, Isaiah Rodgers was CB2. Like, it was his role to lose. And then he got an injury. Quinyon comes in and just took the baton and ran with it. And he's still sprinting to this day. And since then, he has bottled up guys like Mike Evans, like Jamar Chase, obviously now Terry McLaurin. He's had Malik Neighbors in his back pocket. Like, if you go through his back pocket, there is just a list of wide receivers from every single team. He's just on a different level right now. And I said the day before how I think that if Quinyon can bottle up Terry McLaurin, cause problems for him, maybe limit him to 20, 30 yards, keep him off the scoreboard, a receiver that was averaging 87 yards per game against the Eagles, had multiple 100-yard outings over that 5-year span, that this would very much be the passing of the torch. That Darius Slay, as much as he is still technically CB1 on the depth chart and lining up over the ex-receiver, that Quinyon Mitchell is the one deterring attention. Quinyon Mitchell is the one that is covering so fluidly that quarterbacks are throwing to Slay more. Like, Slay is drawing more attention because of how good Quinyon Mitchell is playing. That passage is complete. I think Quinyon Mitchell now, for me, is the Eagles' top cornerback. Like, it's not even remotely close. And to do that as a rookie, I said this the other day that I thought this would have taken a year, 2 years for him to really kind of grow into that role. Like, it's a tough transition, especially from a school a little lower profile like Toledo to come into the NFL, be dropped into the deep end in game one and just absolutely soar with confidence, not really think twice, carry yourself with a level of aura and self-belief that enables you to just really glue yourself to the hip pocket of opposing receivers. I don't think we've seen a corner do that genuinely since the days of like Marshawn Lattimore's rookie year. Like, there hasn't been a cornerback that's come out as a rookie and made that level of impact. Not just 1 week, because every cornerback will have 1 week where they play out there like prime Asante Samuel. But I don't think we've seen one come out and sustain it for as long as Mitchell has, to do it week after week after week. And while he hasn't had that glistening interception, he hasn't come down with that game-sealing play just yet that would likely throw him over the edge in that Rookie of the Year discussion. You are talking about a player that is just playing so out of his skin right now that Darius Slade, the guy that has had 8 Pro Bowls and achieved everything there is to achieve, barring a Super Bowl, is now CB2. And I know he's at the tail end of his career, but you're talking about a guy that even a year, 2 years ago was a top 10, top 15 corner in this league and is now very, very much secondary in the shadow to Quinyon Mitchell, who just continues to take whatever's thrown his way. It doesn't matter who's lining up. Could be a tight end, could be a slot receiver, could be a 6'5" monster. Quinyon plays the same way. And has just been instrumental in the rise of this defense. And I mentioned, even a couple of weeks ago, that how do you quantify Defensive Rookie of the Year or MVP? And it's got to be the guy that is most valuable to that team. And to me, Quinyon Mitchell's value to this Eagles team is far and above what an edge rusher would give. If you were to pick an MVP off this Eagles defense right now, you would be hard-pressed to find an option that isn't Quinyon Mitchell. Potentially Jalen Carter, maybe Zach Bourne. I'd probably say Bourne's tied with him, but it only takes one pick, and that mentality completely changes. So I'm very bullish on the idea of Quinyon Mitchell winning Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think he is just putting on an absolute masterclass right now, and it's great to watch. Like every single week that you want to tune in and just watch that matchup. It doesn't matter who he's lined up against. I find whenever the Eagles defense is on the field, as much as I fawn for Zach Bourne, I sit there just wanting to see who next is imprisoned in Guantanamo Bay, because the guy is just on another level. And if he can sustain that for his career, then the Eagles might just have one of the best young NFL corners in the entire league right now. Because again, to do it one game is one thing as a rookie. To do it 2 games is pretty good. To take that when you're playing 90% of snaps for the entire year, to hold Terry McLaurin to not a single catch, to bottle up Mike Evans, to keep Jamar Chase quiet, you don't see that from veterans, let alone a guy in his first season. So just hats off to Quinyon Mitchell. I think he is, again, just absolutely shining right now. And I'm so glad that the tandem of him and Cooper DeJean is working so well early on. I thought that might take a couple of years to really brew in the background, but exceptional, just absolutely exceptional. Zach's in. Kylie says buzz cut stays forever. It might have to. I am growing on the buzz cut, the Nick Sirianni buzz cut. I might need to take another one off. I think someone suggested in my Twitter mentions that every win the Eagles get from now, that I go down a grade. And look, it's already tuft in. Where is it here? There's already a little tuft coming out. It wants to go. It wants to go over here and give me that little boy zone number. And the bald-headed Brexit man in me is apparently saying otherwise. Birdbrain says, it feels great seeing the Eagles have a great player at every level of defense. Carter, Bourne, Mitchell, and even Reed. Yeah, I mean, Reed Blankenship, I think, has forever been the unsung hero here of this defense. He's made a couple of big plays already. Obviously, CJ is the more marquee, I guess, figure in that secondary, the more vocal leader, the one that he's going to pop up on your Twitter feed. You're not going to see Reed Blankenship in Sports Center anytime soon, but I think Reed is, again, another quietly good year. And it does often get forgotten that this is a player who was undrafted a few years ago and has not only come in and earned out a special teams role, he's not only carved a bigger one, not only then become a starter, but is now a player that can be relied on in pinch situations to make big-time plays. And in a secondary where you're trying to build around the youth, over the next 5 years, you're going to have Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, hopefully Reed Blankenship, providing that he stays and doesn't go elsewhere. A couple of years, hopefully, of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. It's a really strong position for this Eagles to be in. And you could even sprinkle Isaiah Rodgers into that mix. But to go to the next level, Nakobe Dean, I thought, played very well last night. Zach Bourne led the team in tackles. He had 15 against the Commanders. A couple of big ones in there as well, like really big-time stops. But I would say weirdly one of the weaker games from him. There was a couple of big plays. I know there was the early tip pass. I think it was the first drive, maybe, kind of leapt across and knocked a pass out of the way of Noah Brown, I believe. But overall, I think there was a couple of plays where he got dragged up the field by a running back. I think it was Brian Robinson. Solid, extremely solid. But if that's the weakest we've seen him play all year, all pro. That's all I'm going to say. Like, this isn't, I'm not going to sit here and just pick at it for the sake of it. That's not what this channel's about. I've been very, very was attached, I guess, to Zach Bourne over the last few weeks. Even dating back to, as we say, when he first signed and we broke that video down together on this stream, he's been the apple of my eye. And you're going to have slightly weaker games. And if that is as bad as it gets, that is an exceptionally good young linebacker. Like, that was a very, very solid performance. I thought it wasn't as, what's the word? Not highlight worthy, because I don't think he's that kind of player, but it was a bit quieter. But he was, again, consistently around the ball. Like, that's just what he does. He ends up around the ball, making plays and finding ways to get involved and filter it into run fits very cleanly, covering brilliantly. Like, it's fun to watch, man. Like, I really didn't think that through 9-10 weeks of football, I will be sat here more excited about the defense than an offense that is fielding Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, Dallas Goedert, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, like all of these young stars. Saquon Barkley on a generational tear could well be in the mix for MVP this season, the way he is tearing through defenses. And yet the defense is the one that is drawing the attention. I really didn't see it coming, especially after the first few weeks when there was no pass rush. No pass rush to be seen. And now we look at the game coming out of Washington. Nolan Smith gets himself on the board. Josh Sweat gets himself on the board. Jalen Carter was a menace once again. There's not much more you could ask at this point from that Eagles defense. And you're right, as Duck says, I think every single position is solid. He says the safety room still a little bit sus. I don't know. I still feel a bit long-term that Cooper DeJean is going to be the man that transitions up, and maybe they bring in a slot corner because I feel that's easier to replace, and DeJean is a more natural safety. I think he's better suited to the nickel. We said that coming out of college, that as much as he spent time at Iowa on the boundary and made his pay dirt there and was projected as a safety, that I think he lacked some of that long speed, but he gains it in short-term sort of or short area explosiveness. Sticking him in the nickel, as much as it was good for his development because you're not overloading him too much, I think really, as much as they might move him to safety, keeping him in the nickel makes sense. I think that he's thriving there. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And I think that's going to be the best decision they could make. And then if you can go out and get yourself another young safety, brilliant. If you want to move Reed up, and have him be joined later by Cooper DeJean, like we've got to, remember that Sidney Brown hasn't really factored in that much yet. It's very much been the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and the Reed Blankenship show. Brown was great in his rookie year before that injury. There is a high chance we see him come of age, so to speak, should he be given an opportunity down the line. You never know. But overall, just this defense is playing on another planet. Like it makes you wonder, because a few years ago, when Jonathan Gannon first came in, everyone was very, very hesitant about the defense. I was very hesitant about the defense. The way it performed, the way it looked, the way it didn't perform, I suppose, was infuriating because they had all of these pieces and they could never quite get it together. And then he's replaced and Sean Desai comes in and the same thing happens. And it's just the same scheme, but tweaked a little bit. And then they recycle it again and they bring in now the godfather of this scheme. And myself included was like, look, if it is the scheme they want to run, if they want to run a Fangio-esque scheme, then surely having Fangio to run it and not one of his disciples is the best way to go about it. I didn't feel overly convinced that was the way to go. I think part of me longed for that 4-3 goodness. Not that Jim Schwartz did it exceptionally well, but I think there was room for it to work with the way that roster was built, because it was playing a 4-3 for so long. You can't just transition in 1 year with the same players and expect, as we saw, Fletcher Cox to start dropping into coverage and things like that. So a part of me was a bit hesitant because they didn't have the pieces to necessarily make the most of that scheme. And I wondered if just the same issues would occur. And then eventually they're just going to have to bite the bullet and say, look, we don't want to run a Fangio scheme. We've got to try something else. But hands held high, very much proven wrong. I think he's knocked out the park. The defense has very much come alive over the last 5-6 weeks or so. And you can make comments about who they've played, but it's easier to do that when talking about offense, I think. When you're looking at the offenses they've played from the Eagles defense perspective, Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, Malik Neighbors is a great rookie receiver. Obviously, whatever Washington have just brought to the table, the Jags still have a solid offense despite their misfires. The Cowboys, I know they had a backup quarterback. They've got players that can hurt you. They just didn't. Like CeeDee Lamb literally exists. When you look at defenses that the Eagles' offenses face, I think that's where you can start to go, there's more meat on the bone there. But I would say that Vic Fangio's group has done a stellar job of just outperforming everyone's expectations and just taking it to a new level. And it's all young blood. It's all players that are going to be here 3, 4, 5 years minimum. And you can really bed in a system. You can bring in depth. You can develop talent, which is all you need. And it took a little bit of aggression in the NFL draft. It took a little bit of creativity with free agency, with the addition of guys like Zach Bourne, that when all is said and done, this has the makings of being one of the finest defenses in the NFL this season. So I don't know, man. Like I'm very, very surprised. Like this feels like a Christmas morning when you're expecting a pair of socks and you get a PlayStation 5. That this Eagles defense has just turned into a very different beast to what I first anticipated. And there's still room to grow. When you've got Bryce Huff not quite firing yet, like he's going to grow into that, you'd like to assume. If not this season, then absolutely next season. If not after that, then that's when you get a bit worried then, isn't it? And start having those conversations. But yeah, just an incredibly talented unit. I think Fangio's allowing safety to play a bit free because there's no reason for Gardner-Johnson and Blankenship to be out of position so often. Could be. I mean, but then again, when you've got that much stability underneath, when you've got a front three that can create pressure the way it can, with Cooper DeJean down there able to contribute, with Zach Bourne and Nakobe Dean and Zach Bourne together being able to just orchestrate the field and move side to side and shallow into routes and things like that, it does create a little bit of freedom because all they're trying to do really is just funnel things into the linebackers and into the safeties. And if the safeties have the conviction where they can float around and maybe come a bit down and buzz or fall back, whatever it may be, and they're allowed to, then you don't want to limit that just for the sake of the scheme. Like Fangio has always loved creative schemes, and it wouldn't surprise me if that's by design. If maybe that he's taken a look at what Gardner-Johnson can do, where he's most effective, which is just bursting downhill to make hits or picking off passes, and where Reed's most effective, which is slightly deeper, picking off passes, jumping routes, but playing intelligently and not, mortgaging the house on a bad tackling angle. You're allowing them to just move around is going to create flexibility elsewhere. It's going to create things for opposing offenses to keep an eye on because, if Gardner-Johnson pulls down and then they switch or they rotate, there's just a lot there to process. And especially for a young quarterback like Jaden Daniels, there's a lot there to sort of unfold and figure out where you're going to throw the ball, which is something you couldn't do. I was very stunned. I had a feeling the Commanders' run game would be the issue on Thursday night, and it was for the most part. I think Brian Robinson Jr. had a solid game. I thought Austin Eckler was the lifeblood of that team. I was bitterly disappointed we didn't see more of a shootout. Part of me, that toxic part of me, wanted to see more life from the Commanders. And I can't tell if they just drastically underwhelmed and they've been rocked by the Steelers, they've been rocked by the Eagles, and momentum's not there, or if the Eagles defense put on a masterclass. And I think the answer is somewhere in the middle. But I was expecting Terry McLaurin v. Quinyon Mitchell, intense coverage matchups with a few big receptions, a few big pass defenses. I thought Noah Brown would be dangerous. I thought that Zach Ertz could have been a bigger figure in the game, and he kind of was. I know he had, the score at the end, but they've got all the pieces, like Luke McCaffrey, to make problems. And all it felt like they wanted to do was just throw the ball on screens and bubbles, get it into the hands of the running backs, which is strange. I get it because the Eagles secondary is playing extremely well, but it's not like the linebackers are bad. It's not like Washington's defense, for example, where you're talking about a 28th ranked run defense and a pretty good pass defense. It made sense there to use Saquon in the flat, to bring traffic downhill, to open things up over the top, and then to let Saquon run riot. There was none of that from Washington. It felt like a very conservative approach for the most part. And I don't know if it was just me that felt that way. I don't know if you guys saw that as well. But having watched a few Commanders games this season and seeing the way that Daniels likes to air it out, likes to kind of move around, not necessarily scramble, but he's active in the pocket. He's very rarely a statue in the pocket. And it just didn't feel that way. It felt as if the Commanders were almost playing not to lose rather than playing to win. Like each possession was just chipping away. There were a couple of deep shots, but I don't think there was anything that would legitimately scare that Eagles defense, especially the way it's playing right now. And when that happens, all it's going to do is feed confidence and feed an eagerness in that defense to make further plays happen and to generate more pressure and to try and get Jaden Daniels off his spot. And they were coming off a game where Daniels under pressure wasn't great. Last 5 minutes of that game on the line, they needed Jaden Daniels to come in the clutch and, get them out of a hole against Pittsburgh. Couldn't do it. And it's the first time. I know he got away with one against the Bears because that was, swipe your forehead moment to keep the game alive and get that score to win it. But there haven't been many occasions where we've seen Jaden Daniels take a game by the horns. It's something that Jalen Hurts has done, I think, more times in his career than we give credit for. It's just, you're down deep in a hole, you're not playing very well, you step up, you find a way, and if something's not working, you pivot, you lock in, and you get the job done. Jalen, we spoke about this the other day, does that brilliantly, of just being able to, even last night, really not good in the first half. I was worried he was a bit concussed. I thought maybe the ankle was playing up. There was one throw to the sideline. I think it was to A.J. Brown. And as he's thrown, obviously the ball has just gone massively left. And A.J.'s over here and the ball has flown out of bounds. And I watched the throw, like obviously live and now on the replay. And his upper body, when you have a wrestling figure and you just turn them and the upper body just does that. It looked like that. It looked like as if someone had just twisted Jalen Hurts, who's gone, ugh. And like, there was no power in the throw. There was no, he's just like kind of let it go. The body's moved too far. There was no release motion almost. It was like overexerting. And that happened a few times earlier. There were a couple of drops early in the game where the ball was just flapping through the air like Angry Birds. Like there was no power. And this was something that really haunted him in his rookie season and to a part the second year, where balls over the middle were just, they lacked power. They would just be sort of like fell into almost, and the ball would just flop its way there, and it gives the defense a chance to make a play. It makes it trickier for the receiver to catch. That was an issue. Like Jalen did not look good first half. Down 10-6. The Eagles come out second half. They begin to ride Barkley a bit more. It takes the strain off of Jalen Hurts, who is then able to just start chipping away and get the job done and use his legs. If his arm's not working, you've got two perfectly good legs. If they bottle that up, get back to passing through the air. And again, we saw another varied offense in the second half. I don't know what that trick play was in the first half. I refuse to speak on whatever chaos they were trying to create there. But the way that Hurts was able to, again, recognize he's struggling, he's not firing for whatever reason, something mechanically is just off, and it's not really clear what it is, to just simplify things, pull it back, pull back the hood, take a look, get that car going again. Very good. He's done that, I think, 3 weeks in a row now, and it is essentially led the team to 3 wins. Like, he hasn't turned the ball over. He's not making key mistakes. He might be misfiring, but they're clean misfires. He's not throwing the ball into triple coverage. He's not forcing anything. He's just trying to force the throws that are there because for some reason he's not getting power. And that's a smart quarterback that, whether it's injury, whether it was concussion, like I don't know. And I hate to, speculate on if someone's had a concussion as to why they're playing bad. However, I think that there was something not quite right. And whether that's mechanical, whether it was physical, mental, I'm not sure. But to come back from that and to play the way he did and to lead that drive, like it's easy to put it all on Saquon Barkley, but you've still got to make those chip shots and those chip throws. And I think he did a brilliant job of that again. So I know that a lot of people have been critical of Jalen Hurts this year. I think we all have at times. But it is important to remember the good stuff. And this chat specifically, you guys on YouTube right now, if you're on Twitter, hello, make sure you come over. Philly Sports Network is the YouTube channel. We'd love to have you discussing the Birds with us. But especially over the last few weeks, Hurts has just been able to realize something's not quite right, make an adjustment. And look, wouldn't every quarterback dream of having a release valve like Saquon Barkley? It's not Jalen's fault that the offense is that good, that if he's not quite there, you've got options to make it better. That even Kenny Gainwell can make an impact in that game. That's huge. Like, Jalen Hurts doesn't have to be Superman on every play. He doesn't have to be launching deep missiles to A.J. Brown, firing across the middle into double coverage, rolling out and throwing across his body. He doesn't have to do that. He just has to manage the fact that he has one of the best offenses in the league, put them in a position to score. If the routes aren't there, don't worry. Is he holding on to the ball a bit too long sometimes? Potentially. Is the play itself and the mechanic of Jalen throwing brilliant? Not at the minute. But to still be in that position where the offense is still a little bit jiggledy, Hurts isn't playing out of his mind, and you're leading a 6-game win streak, you're putting up solid enough numbers. Not many quarterbacks do that. There aren't many that can just consistently find another level and adjust. Like, we've said it before, it's very much an ego-driven thing. People will just do the same thing over and over again because it's worked for them 9 weeks before. It's not working now, therefore I have to do it better. Hurts isn't like that. Very, very selfless, and it's really helped the team there. People forget, says that Daniels is still a rookie in a mostly college-style offense. Yeah, that's very fair. And I think the assumption was that might help him, obviously given Cliff's affinity with quarterbacks like obviously Manziel, Lamar Jackson, that maybe Daniels would have had a bigger impact. But he's had a good season. But when you come up against an elite defense, he's had it 2 weeks in a row now, there are rookie teething problems. It happens. It happens to every rookie quarterback. And the Eagles had to be the team to make sure they happened and they weren't mugged off. That's the thing. You cannot let Washington, of all teams who are red hot, at the top of the NFC East, just come into your grounds and mug you off. And they didn't. And they got away with it. And I think they played exceptionally well down the stretch. That final quarter was a work of art. Just pretend the first half didn't happen. And they can hold their heads high. But yeah, I think Jaden Daniels is very easy to overhype because of the way he plays football. And when he's comfortable, what happens? We haven't really seen him outside of the last 2 weeks when he's not comfortable. And now we're seeing that. And it's going to be very intriguing to see the next few weeks. Does he bounce back? Is he able to get back to firing 300 passing yards and 80 rushing yards a game? Or is there a marginal rookie ceiling here? It happened with Dak Prescott in year 2. Rookie season, absolutely smashed it. Year 2, not as good. And you've got to bear those sort of things in mind. But the Eagles took care of business, and that's, all that mattered. It's funny that no one was talking about Daniel's injury till he played them. I can't believe Smitty and AJ ran into each other. They just wanted to give each other a hug. They just wanted to give each other a little cuddle. It's all it was. It was all part of the game. Don't worry about it. It was definitely Nick Sirianni's fault. Yeah, definitely Nick Sirianni's fault. I refuse to believe nothing else. Like, even the trick play, I think Duck mentioned it earlier. Yeah, there it is. I'll get to a bite of life's comment in a minute because I believe that's a new chatter. So I want to say hello and give him a cuddle. That trick play is definitely Sirianni's fingerprints all over it. There was no need for it. Basically dead stop to moving series. However, in Sirianni's defense, end of the game, I think it was like the first touchdown they scored to go up. It would have been 14-6. I think they scored one and they could, it was to go up 14-6. Either way, it was to go up by like 9 points. And Emmanuel Acho tweeted saying, why don't they go for 2? That's what Nick Sirianni does, like go for 2 points. And it's like, well, no. Because if you go for 1, it's still a 2-possession game. They can't physically get 9 points, so why would you go for 2? And that is, in fairness, the sort of thing Sirianni would do. To take it from a 2-possession game to a 2-possession game, Nick Sirianni would take that risk and risk making it still a 1-score game. So I think that is a testament. He wasn't as bozo-ish against the Commanders. There was some restraint, shall we say, when it came to the aggressiveness on 4th down. A bite of life says, like 8. Like 8. Maybe he's all right, mate. I'm not sure. Hi, Liam. Hello. It was great to see Carter causing havoc practically the whole game. He is a problem. Absolutely. I'm still amazed he didn't win Rookie of the Year last year. I was shocked to learn that I was living in some dystopian universe. I assumed he did win Defensive Rookie of the Year last year. But just, great. I think that he is taken on that role of being the team's premier pass rusher, and he's not backed down from it. And early on, when there were concerns about Jordan Davis, about the edge rushes, about production not coming from the multi-million bagger of Bryce Huff, there were question marks. And Jalen Carter has stepped up and it's not even just that he's good, it's just that he's so lethal. It's not like he'll make a tackle for a loss. It is like tackle for a loss. It's not, it's a sack. It is that quarterback is now 9 foot, his hands poking out of the grass, like begging for a referee flag. He is so violent with his pass rush moves. And I would love to see some sort of video one day if just like a Jalen Carter pass rush rep slowed down with one of those like 4K cameras that Fox have, with just really classical piano music over it and just the way he's able to rip through. OnlyFans. Someone get on it and put it on OnlyFans because I will watch that till the cows come home. But yeah, just again, another player playing on another level right now. This was the first game, says Duck, first Washington game in a long time that Scary Terry didn't burn us for yards or touchdowns. Well, yeah, he's averaged, as we said, like 87 yards per game against the Eagles. Nothing. He had one catch for 10 yards. Quintanamo Bay. We'll come back to it again. Dr. Q comes in. Q is a remora. Now, I'm being a bit silly here, and I'm not realizing what remora means, so I need to word that. I think it's nice. Remora Electrical Limited is a fish. There is a fish called a remora. Maybe it's like an American thing, and someone tell me what remora means in case it's something naughty and I get cancelled tomorrow. I think it's a fish. Maybe he's saying Q is a fish. Although, because he is swimming. He is swimming in the sea of Pro Bowlers is what he's going to be doing, Doc. I'll tell you that for free. He is going to be swimming in a sea of cash when that rookie contract runs up. But yeah, we'll come back to the Quinyon Mitchell thing again. To have, again, played Jamar Chase, Mike Evans, Malik Neighbors, CD Lamb, Terry McLaurin, and allowed absolutely nothing. How can you not put him as Defensive Rookie of the Year? And I ranted about this the other day, that it's so easy for the panel to look at, pass rusher, sacks, Jared Verse had this many tackles for a loss. But Defensive Rookie of the Year should be the most outstanding rookie performance. And a large part of the cornerback's job is not getting targeted, not giving up receptions or yards. And Quinyon Mitchell is blistering, not just rookies, like the entire secondary of corners that the NFL has to offer. There aren't many doing it the way he's doing it right now in terms of just bottling up wide receiver ones every single week. And because a throw not gone his way doesn't amount in a stat, that's not going to put him in Rookie of the Year. And it really pisses me off because you cannot put a value on the way that Mitchell is playing right now. Like, you just can't do it. He is out of his skin right now. And I really hope that they find a way. Like, just get him. He needs a pick. Can someone just bat one in the air? Can Gardner Johnson alley-oop one over to him when he's about to pick it off instead? Can we just get him on the board so that when January, February comes and we're making those conversations, that it's very clear that Quinyon Mitchell has a hat in the mix, because he absolutely deserves one. You just can't go through a season as a rookie and give up next to nothing to Mike Evans, next to nothing to Jamar Chase, next to nothing to Malik Neighbors, next to nothing to Terry McLaurin, next to nothing to CD Lamb, and then just be called, yeah, you're all right, but you weren't Jared Verse and his 5 sacks. It doesn't compute. They're not the same thing. And I will die on the hill that Quinyon Mitchell right now is absolutely pissing the Rookie of the Year race. Whether he wins it, it's not down to me. It's a bunch of 65-year-old men who don't know they still use BlackBerries, and they're putting their votes in on them. So I haven't really got much say in the matter. But he should absolutely be in the conversation. And if he comes out of it with some votes, I think we can all say that's a good thing. We'll get to a few more of your comments. We did find out that a remora is a fish that sticks to sharks. Oh, you're a naughty man. I don't know where you've pulled that from, but that is tremendous. That is like Shakespearean ball knowledge from the young man there. Quinyon Mitchell is a remora. What's that, I say? He says a fish that sticks to sharks. God, love that. You know that meme of it's like future writing and the page is on fire? That's all I'm imagining you right now when you wrote that comment. Don't forget about Jordan Davis playing well. He was doubled a lot and forcing the double to block a run lane. When they single him, he just stuffed runners and he was in the QB's face. And that's his role. That's very much what he's there to do. You know, he is that Baltimore, that Houston-esque, 3-down nose tackle that is just going to swallow up pressure. And he's not going to show on the stat sheet, and he's not going to blow you away with a violent pass rushing move. But what he is going to do is just clog up lanes. He's going to cause traffic jams and enable his fellow edge rushers to eat. And again, it worked. Nolan Smith, by the way, I'm pretty sure he's had 3.5 sacks over the last few weeks. Can we shout that out, right? That guy was buzzing like a horny bumblebee last night after that sack. He was running around, smiling, skipping up and down. He was having a hell of a time. And I think after a year as a rookie, which didn't quite go to plan, I think many of us expected a bit more from him. to come into year 2, still not be there yet. Like, it's taken him a long time to get to this point. But now he's rallying. Like, the last few weeks, Nolan Smith has looked like an actual NFL caliber starting edge rusher. And that takes time. And it's very easy for young players. As look, we've seen in Philadelphia, we know it better than anyone, that young edge rushers either don't always pan out, or they'll start hot and cool off and the confidence goes. And it can take time to rebuild that. And for Nolan Smith to have maintained the confidence and the self-belief to get himself back into contention for snaps, I think, let alone like an actual production perspective. But it's a massive hats off to him. I think he has really earned every bit of praise that he gets. He's not getting a lot of it, which is pissing me off. So I'm going to write an article tomorrow on like the 3 unsung Eagles of the year so far. Nolan Smith, Jordan Davis are 2 of them. I might need to write 10 because there's so many players that just aren't getting the love right now. Cam Jurgens, I think, needs a lot of love on the offensive side of things. When you look at week 1 and we say how bad the offense was and the fact that Jalen's getting them all lined up and it's a lot of miscommunications everywhere. To go from that to this is, I mean, he's not the reason the offense is a bit dysfunctional at times, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Davis seems quiet, but he was immovable in the run game. Add the chaos of Carter, and it's deadly. And that's it. That's the 1-2 punch that they were pining for, and they were hoping this duo would turn into. And it's yielding some sensational returns. Really, really is. I'm just so hyped that our defense is playing at a high level. I've always been a defense fan first, and always will be. I see. That's what I'm saying. Like I was very much like I was offense, and then I discovered cornerbacks, and then I got obsessed with like watching cornerbacks in coverage. So being able to watch Quinyon Mitchell with all the potential in the world actually like fulfill it year 1, can't put a price on it, man. Like it's so good. Like, but the only issue I've got a bit of life, and it's giving me a bit of worry. I'll tell you that for free. Is I don't know which jersey to get. Like, where do you start? If you're going to buy a defensive jersey right now, who do you go for? Like, I want to get Zach Bourne. But knowing my luck and my track record with jerseys, he's going to be gone like next season. They're going to let him walk and sign a payday, and I'll be listening to Taylor Swift for 6 weeks. I want to get Quinyon Mitchell, but I want to get Cooper DeJean, but I want to get Jalen Carter, but I want to get Reed Blankenship, but I want to get Nolan Smith. I think the Nolan Smith jersey looks hard just because you've got the 3 there. It makes it look a bit more like a bit of an edge to it, if you will. So I don't know. I promised myself I would get a Zach Bourne jersey, and if I'd have bought one week 1, it would have been like investing in Microsoft in 1992. I was that far. I was saying, and I went to order one, and they didn't do it. Fanatics did not do a Zach Bourne jersey. You couldn't get it. You had to make a custom one, and I couldn't be bothered to pay the extra price like the cheapskate that I am. And look how that's fared me. Now I am miserable. Bourneless. There is no identity to this Bourne. I am just living, and it's not good. So maybe Zach Bourne is the play there. Let's get to a few more of your comments. Jarrell is in, says, well, no, Blackberry slapped. They did. Not in 2024 when they're voting for Pro Bowls, though. I never had one. That's why I'm bitter, if I'm honest. That's why I'm shit-talking Blackberries on a Friday night Eagles stream. I never had one. It wound me up. All right, I bought a little Samsung Chat, if anyone, I'm not sure if it had them in the States, but like a knockoff BlackBerry that had no BBM on it, which is all anyone wanted a BlackBerry for. And it's very much what should we say? The Nate Wiggins of Quinyon Mitchell's, for a spicy take out there. It's got all the right things, but it's not quite the real thing, is it? Nate Wiggins is playing very well. He's having a great rookie year, and I was wrong. I thought he'd be an absolute bum, but he's doing all right. But he's not quite Quinyon Mitchell, is he? And that's Blackberries and Samsung Chats. So there you are for a pointless analogy that absolutely nobody asked for. Let's get to a few more. With how hard it was to get red zone touchdowns last night, what's my suggestion to fix that issue? I was screaming for more throws to the giant rookie. I think, that would have helped. A little bit of Johnny Wilson intervention would have been very nice because it just gives them optionality. I don't actually know because I feel like it's probably wrong, but the Eagles seem to drive down and it's like they don't want to score. It's like they just want to get to the 1 yard line and then run in a tush push. And it's not that they're not targeting in the red zone, but I wonder if just the playbook is so limited when they're down there. And I don't know why, but it feels like they will march down the field happily running the ball. And obviously the field gets tighter when you're inside the 20 and the defense bottles up a little bit because you're trying to protect a little bit of ground. And that comes away. So then they have to go vertical, and then they can't get that going because there's not enough ground for Smitty to get vertical separation, and you're trying to box out a corner for AJ Brown. I think they're just overthinking it. I really think they're overthinking it. I'm not actually sure what their red zone percentage is this year. It's probably very good because of the tush push. I'm going to have a look now, though, because I'm genuinely curious. But it wouldn't surprise me if it's one of like the lower percentages in the league. I'm just loading up the website, I promise. I'm not on eBay looking for Zach Bourne jerseys just yet. But yeah, to me, it just feels like they get too cute down there. And then they just try and baby it to the 1 yard line because they know that they don't have to risk it. And also, like, is that not fair? Do you know what I mean? Like, is that not just fair enough? If you know that there is a risk in throwing a 7-yard pass to AJ Brown that could get picked off and you could lose that momentum and it could even get returned to the house, or you could run a ball and it can be fumbled, does it not just make sense to chip away, get down to the 1 yard line, and then score when you know, like, there's like a 97% certainty that you will? I think it's 82% this year that they're down there. But let's look at the red zone offense. So I've got red zone scores per game, touchdowns only. Yeah, Philadelphia is 6th in the NFL with red zone scores per game. I don't think I've got their actual red zone percentage. Red zone scoring percentage. It's going to be just as high, isn't it? My computer's now frozen, so that's gone well. And now it's beeped at me, which is even better. They rank 11th. So they're 11th in 2024. In the last 3 games, though, they're about 11th as well. 66%. It's up to, it's 40, worryingly 46% on the road, at home, and 64% on the road. So in terms of home red zone scoring, they are literally one of the worst teams in the league. Like, Dallas are last, the Giants, Washington with the whole NFC East are the worst 3 red zone teams in the league at home. Wow. San Fran, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Philadelphia. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a solution for that, other than I think that they're probably overthinking it a little bit and they just need to tone it back. But at the same time, are we just saying that because we've got bets on the players, because we want to just see a passing touchdown every now and again? But it's, if I went to you, right, look, let's say like you're a DGen and you love gambling and you're sports betting all the time. It was like, look, I'm going to give you $20 to bet on this 5-leg parlay, all right? Or I can give you $50 to bet on one bet, like one line. So you can either have $20 on a 5-leg parlay that might hit $700, or I can give you like a bit more money, but a much shorter odds of like 1-1 on like the Eagles to win outright. Which one would you take? And if you're a smart money guy, you're going to take the first one. If you're a DGen, you're going to take the second one. And I think with that specifically, the Eagles know they've got house money. Like, as soon as they get into the red zone, they know they can get in from the 1 yard line. And if they stop it once, can they stop it twice? Can they stop it 3 times when you've got that much, for lack of a better term, thigh power from the likes of Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley and all the linemen and the tight ends? I think that it plays such a role when they're down in the red zone that it just is this basic automatic assumption that if they get down there, they're going to be trying to tush push it because it just is the most effective thing they can do. So I think that probably plays a little bit into it. And yeah, we'll see what you guys say in response to that, because I've been rambling about it for a while. Smith finally learned how to bend and swim and go with his speed. Did you see him come around that corner over the left tackle? Yeah, it was another one of those OnlyFans moments. I think Nolan Smith is genuinely having a mini breakout. I mean, he's not, disintegrating offensive tackles just yet. He's not putting up blinding stats, but I think he's on, as I said, 3.5 sacks on the season now. And he's playing like more consistently. He's on the field more. You're even seeing, guys like Jeremiah Trotter get out there a bit now as well. But there's just an intent. Like, and once you start producing and you get more snaps, you're gonna then produce, and it's just this snowball effect. So like, I really hope that by the end of the year we can make a film room video on Nolan Smith and break it all down. But on that note, the Mac is here. So I've ordered the new iMac. That's arrived. I've edited Brian's video last week. We've got another stock watch coming Sunday, I think. And there will be more Eagles content, actual video uploads from me soon. So we're going to be locked straight in. I'm just going to work out how to do them alongside the streams and what the format's going to be. But there will be Eagles content in a video form coming soon. And hopefully a film room on someone like Nolan Smith. I'd love to do a closer look at Quinyon Mitchell, but I fear that I wouldn't be able to do it without getting a bit flustered. So I need to reel that back in before we start watching the tape. Not in like it. We'll quit while we're ahead. But I would love to do a Quinyon Mitchell film room. And the end zone pass to Smith that wasn't completed, Dallas was wide open underneath, might have scored. That's fair enough. We're going to need Smith either way, so if he gets some sacks or spies his boundary, we'll take it 100%. Slay should be benched. I said that 2 years ago. No, I'm messing. But I don't think he's here past the end of the season. It also doesn't help that he's being targeted in so many plays. I think that's very much part of the pie that you have. Like, if you've got one corner that is just absolutely excelling and no one wants to go near him, which is what we're seeing with Mitchell, the other one's going to get battered. Like, we saw it a lot when Rasul Douglas was in Philadelphia, and he was just being targeted like every... Or Jalen Mills. Go back one further. Look at Jalen Mills in Philadelphia, for crying out loud. Look at how many times a game that man was targeted. And I'm just, well, for one, I'm happy that era is over, because I cannot deal with the shrugging celebration and this when a ball's thrown 50 yards over that way after giving up an 87-yard completion the play before. But yeah, like Jalen Mills used to get picked apart, like especially those first couple of years, because it was just the easy one to go to. Like, it was that simple. He was the guy. If you don't want to throw left and you're worried about the safeties with Malcolm Jenkins lurking around, you can't come underneath because you've got a fairly good rookie cornerback at the time in Maddox coming up. 7th round pick over there. It'll be all right, won't it? Yeah, and that was it. And that was the same thing we're kind of seeing with Slay. And it doesn't help that Slay is getting a bit older. I would argue he has lost a step. And yeah, but I don't think he's here next year. Like, there's only a few more weeks, Doc. All right, you got one more year. All right, you've got 6 games postseason. And then hopefully we don't have to worry about it. And you can have Isaiah Rodgers. Put Keely Ringo out there. Give it to Keely Ringo. That's the guy I want. I want a Ringo and Mitchell secondary. I want them to recreate the Beatles and rename the lot of them. Ringo, Reed, Mitchell, the Beatles. Get them all in, because I think Ringo in that preseason was extremely promising. Like, he was good as a rookie in the spurts that he played. I think he was better in that preseason. And didn't get the opportunity because depth was too good. You've got a first-round pick that is, frothing at the bit to get out there. You've got Isaiah Rodgers. You can't dethrone Slay. And he just kind of sank in. So if there was a way where someone could tactically, just put him on Phantom IR, maybe put some laxatives in his coffee before a Saturday morning so he can't play. He's got a stomach bug. Nothing vicious, but enough to put him on IR for a week. Then give it to Keely Ringo or Isaiah Rodgers. I think that's the best of both worlds. But I would never suggest such a heinous crime. And Phantom IRs are a terrible thing. And I would never, never suggest that. BG retirement tour jersey, says Bird Brain. I feel like I'm doing a horrible job at rambling right now. So I apologize for that. Really, other than Washington running out, the whole defense was playing outstanding. I completely agree. Slay's pretty much done after this season, so we can go to Rodgers and Ringo. I really hope so. Nolan Smith is also underrated as a run defender. I mean, okay, so hypothetically, if I was to cook a film room, which film room would you want to see first? Quinyon or Nolan Smith? I think Quinyon. It has to be Quinyon. Like, it just does, doesn't it? I need to do a Quinyon Mitchell film room. Bradbury's on Phantom IR. Bradbury, I think, is on vacation in Jamaica or something. Where is he? He's just sat at home. The new Fortnite's come back and he's just sat at home having a hell of a time. Not heard from him. Don't know what's going on there with James Bradbury, but he might have the easiest Super Bowl ring ever if he can just ride this one out. But yeah, Bradbury's in Cancun. Yeah, I have heard similar reports. I hope BG doesn't retire or at least stays with the team and tries his hand as a positional coach. I think he will. I think Brandon Graham's got too much love for Philadelphia. And it's like Jason Kelce. Like, the city loves him back. Like, BG has been there for near enough not the entirety, but 75% of the time I've been a fan. You grow up watching a player. Brandon Graham has been there since I was 13, I think, and I'm 20. No, that's not right. 14? 15? 15. 15. I think 15 years old. A 15-year-old LJ watching baby Brandon Graham run around. It's mad because you grow up and you mature and these players are still doing their thing. And he's just so lovable and he's so honest and you just can't pick a fault with him. And the way he chirps, the mic'd up videos are always just must-watch content. And I think he's the same as Kelce. I think Kelsey's going to coach one day in Philly. I can see Fletcher Cox still being involved with the team. Lane Johnson's another one. I think down the line, should that day ever come, that he would be involved with the team. And yeah, I think Brandon Graham will, whether it's as a coach straight away, whether it's a bit later. Obviously, you look at someone like Connor Barwin, where he went off coaching and what happened with his post-Eagles career. Truthfully, you liked our photo on Instagram earlier. Connor Barwin, what a man. Always loved him and his curly little hair. What an handsome fella he is. Shout out to Connor Barwin. Maybe he's watching this. Hello, Connor. Come in the stream. Say hello. Let's have a little chat. Cox wants something to do with football as a career. Yeah, I remember, funnily enough, one of our writers, Zach, obviously flipping the birds, spoke to him for a thing with Metro Philadelphia, and he was like, he's just happy spending time with his family, which you can't fault really. But I think, I don't know, everyone gets that itch. Like, it's all they've done for their whole lives. So if he can peacefully leave it and, leave the football trenches and just enjoy life, more power to him. And I wish him nothing but the happiest of retirements and soaking up all that family time, because you've probably got years to catch up on. But if he ever gets the itch, I can't imagine Howie Roseman being ever too far away. And his racing team, they never had a racing team. What, are we talking cars? Like, what, NASCAR? Shut up. Not literally. I don't want to be mean to you. Has he got a racing team? I had no idea. Why has no one told me that? Does he know I won the Brickyard 400 in iRacing? Or the Indy 500? Or the Sebring? They're on stream, Fletch. If you want to hire me, Fletch, they're on stream, mate. They're on Twitch. You can go watch them. I can relive the stories if you want. Hire me. I'll help you out with your racing. Is it like I guess it must be like what's the word? Oh, like the dirt oval stuff when like you felt like the entry level dirt oval. Oh, street drag. I'm going to look into this after stream, but that has absolutely blown my mind. I had no idea. But fair enough, that is my utmost respect. I love motorsport. It's my second passion other than Philadelphia sports. Like, I think a few of you will know that before I started Philly Sports Network, which is his 10th year next year. 10 years old is this little baby. We've been here, 10 years. That's a whole decade. Little baby LJ coming up to now. I haven't got any hair anymore. I haven't got facial hair. That's a long way in 10 years. But yeah, like before I did PSN, I was motorsport broadcasting. Like I was doing sports cars and stuff and at circuits. So I would love to. I'm going to see if I can reach out and see if we can work something where I can I just want to have a chat about motorsport and just see what he knows in terms of like what he wants to do with the team. If there's any way we can help promote it, like can we maybe cover what the team does and the drivers? Because I love it. I remember him having a ranch. I know Ron says there he had a ranch. I hope he has the loveliest retirement ever. I hope he goes out and does everything he wants and that team's successful and they can bring through some promising motorsport talents. Like, what a man. Utmost respect in the world for Fletcher Cox for doing that. I know we've got a few more minutes left, guys. Is there anything you want to go over to end the stream with before I bid you adieu and go off into the weekend? Don't forget as well, tomorrow, Flipping the Birds in the morning. They will be recapping the game as well. So they're going to have their take. I believe I don't want to spoil it, but it'll be more defense focused, similar to how this was, I think. And then we've got an Eagles stock watch video coming on Sunday, which is going to be primarily focused around one player who rhymes with Maquan Snarkley. So that's going to be fun. Excited to bring that. Good stream. I appreciate you hanging out. Thank you so much for hopping in, A Bite of Life. Welcome to the chat. Hopefully you'll be back for more. I didn't mean to end this prematurely, but I suppose now that A Bite of Life said goodbye, I kind of have to. So who in the NFC really gives you a cause for pause? I'll take it back because he worded that sensationally. I'm staying for a bit. Don't go anywhere. Who in the NFC gives me cause for pause? I've never used that terminology in my life, Jarrell. I'm going to from tonight. And I want you to be safe in the knowledge that like that is going to be in an article. I'm going to say it on stream. I love that. Cause for pause. I need to stop thinking about the word and think about the NFC teams. I mean, the Lions do to a point. I know Birdbrain said it there. Let's have a look. Let's get the standings up. We can kind of go team by team because I think the NFC is a lot more complicated than just naming a team because there's just no one that's any good. Like, not in a mean way. There just aren't many teams right now that are, doing anything irrelevant. So let's go through the NFC. It's loading up. Bear with me. It's got some AI thing on the right-hand side. That's winding me up. All right. NFC North. Lions, 7-game win streak. Jared Goff is Jared Goff. Don't know how I feel about it. The Lions are the toughest challenge currently. The Vikings, I think, can get back on track. They've obviously won 2 in a row since their little blip a few weeks ago. Sam Darnold was somewhat quelled since that red-hot start, but is just as efficient. I think the Vikings would be the team that would end up just causing a problem for It depends how it's drawn, doesn't it? But I can see the Bucks or someone like that going out to a team like the Vikings and sneaking through to the championship round or something like that. The Packers, I feel sorry for, because if they're in like any other division, they're literally in the thick of a playoff race, and instead they're buried behind two teams. I think they're good. I think, as I've said at the start of the season, they're about where the Eagles were in 2021 or 2022. They're a year away. That they need one more year to get a few more pieces. Like, they've got the core bit, they've got the right bit with Jordan Love. They've got a couple of good wideouts. The defense is picking up with the secondary, but they're just missing a little bit of depth and a little bit of talent on the offensive and defensive front. Chicago, lol, don't worry about it. Eagles, can't choose my own team, but they would if they weren't in this discussion. The Commanders did give me cause for pause until last night. I think losing to the Steelers and the Eagles isn't a coincidence. I think that's two very good defenses that they have now lost to, and it probably shows some level of ceiling that wasn't there before. It was always, how high can this team go? And now it's, well, that high, because they've hit the Eagles and the Steelers, not been able to do anything. So I'm not as concerned. NFC South, Falcons, no. I mean, you can look back at how they played in week 2, but they ruin my bet every week, so I'm not overly concerned with them. I think I've watched more Falcons football than any other team, because they always end up in my bet and they always ruin it. So, yeah, I'm not. They've got the pieces. I just don't think they're there yet. Again, like, it's twoing. The Falcons are what people think the Eagles are, with like the self-destructive tendencies and the misfires and stuff. The Falcons do that for fun. Like, they just blow games up for no reason. Like, the Saints game the other week was absolutely horrifying to watch. So yeah, I'm not concerned about that. The Bucks have really fallen off, and that confused me, because I figured they would be a more prominent feature, especially after that Eagles game. They started out really strong. Baker Mayfield was dealing, and it's just gone tits up. Ignore the rest of them. Cardinals, I'm really not asked about. The Niners, I am. Now that they've got McCaffrey back, they're looking to get a little bit more momentum. I think that they're going to obviously make the playoffs. They should win the division. Are they strong enough to beat the Eagles this year? I don't think so. So really, the only team is the Lions or the Vikings. And I would probably, as much as it's a little bit hot takey, be more fearful of the Vikings than I am of the Lions. And I don't know what is telling me that. Something is just going off in my head. I just feel like, I don't know, they barely beat the Texans. I mean, yeah, they blew out the Titans, but I mean, barely won there. There's a lot of, it's either blowout or one score. There's very little in between. So I don't know. I feel like the Vikings are just too explosive. The Vikings can run up a score on you very, very quickly, and you not be able to stop it. The Lions, you still have to depend on Jared Goff for that if the run game is stuffed. And Philadelphia's run defense is much better than it was a year ago. So I would say that. If we can snag the 1 seed, playing in the Lions out of Philly in January is a pretty big advantage for a dome team. Yeah, I didn't even think of that, but absolutely sad. If you're not afraid of Goff, I don't know how Sam can make you blink. I don't know. I think that Goff is just more mistake prone. Like, there's not much in it. But there is something like Sam Darnold's resurgence this year has been far more convincing than what Goff has done. Like, if you're just going year to year, like from where Sam Darnold was a year ago, where didn't even have a job, wasn't a starter. The Vikings obviously bring in their face of the franchise in McCarthy. It doesn't, injury, it's not gone well. Darnold had to step in. And I think he's done a remarkable job. It's more a case of beating expectations and confidence levels. Like, I think Jared Goff can lose you a game more violently than Sam Darnold can. Like, Sam Darnold has spent a lot of time as a game manager, which I think is going to benefit him in those tight situations where you're just trying to wear an offense or a defense down. Something tells me that Jared Goff just isn't that. He still has that Carson Wentz-esque like light switch. It's just going to force feed everything to everyone. So that's where I am on that. And on that note, guys, we are going to... Oh, they both had 3+ interceptions last week too. In that case, I fear no one. The NFC is ours. It runs through Philadelphia, and we go in all the bloody way. And on that note, we're going to end it there. But before you go, if you could, on your way out, leave a like on the stream and just pop your subscribe in the bin. Don't bin it, but just subscribe to the channel on the way out, basically. That would be tremendous. Yeah, best way to support what we do. We've got Eagles content coming out of our ears. As I say, we've got a stream tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. We've got a video on Sunday, stream Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We're going to have video uploads as well. Like, the operation to revive the PSN channel is very much underway now. And we're going full steam ahead with as much content as you can, enjoy. So if you want to be part of that, we'd love to have you along for the ride. And if you're watching tonight and haven't said hello, I'm not ignoring you. I love you too. You enjoy yourself. Have a good weekend. Enjoy a Sunday with Scott Hanson telling you there are 7 hours of commercial-free football without having to worry about what the Eagles do or what other teams do, because the NFC East runs through Philadelphia. They're top of the block, and that's all you need to know. So until next week, my name's been Liam Jenkins. I appreciate you all hanging out. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Enjoy your weekends. Take care of yourselves. Go Birds. I'll see you soon.